Hi, welcome to Make It in Solidworks. This is the fourth in the series How to Do Dimensioning. I think it is video number 6.3. And this time I'm going to show you how to dimension a slightly more difficult to dimension object, because to date we've been dimensioning objects which have straight sides. So that's been that block, and then this object here, which has got straight sides, although it has filleted edges. So in this instance, we have drafts. There we go. There's drafts and fillets, and we've got these two bosses. And so we're going to need some section views, and it is also shelled. Okay, so let's go to it. Going to say make drawing from part, and then I'm going to select A1 because A2 might be too small, and then from my view palette I'm going to drag the front view out. It's the only one I need, and then just drag the mouse out without clicking anything, and down without clicking anything, and then lastly an isometric view. So the first thing I'm going to do, as I always do, is just get rid of the view origins. Drag this out somewhat. Right, so what you'll notice in this sort of thing is that sometimes it's quite difficult to figure out whether you're looking at the front or the back view. So if I were to click on another view, they're very similar, as you can see. So let's go back to this front view. And the second thing with these tangent lines are just the lines which mark the transition between one plane and another, if there are fillets, is that there are lots of lines, and so it becomes difficult to choose the ones that are important. So if you click on your view and then right click and go down to tangent edge, and I'm going to show you all three. So this is tangent edge with font. You can set what your tangent edge looks like. I've got mine as a dashed line. Let's do that again and go to tangent edge, and with tangent edges removed, I now have a very much clearer picture of the shape that I want to dimension. If I go back to the model, you'll see that this is essentially the base shape, and that's what I really need. It's the base shape which has been extruded upwards at a draft, and then these bosses have been introduced also extruded downwards at a draft. So that's really the basic shape that I want to dimension. I'm going to start with the standard annotation, which is a center line, and here it becomes easier to select the end lines because I've only got two, and so I get my center line, which I'm going to now drag all the way down. And while we're at it, let's just put in the center line symbols. Right, that seems to want to go. Okay, I had the line selected, so that's why I wanted to put the center line with the leader line on it. Actually, while I'm at it, let's just use a different font straight away so that it goes larger. Go 20. Right, so I click. Click again. Place it up here. Click again. All right, and if I go back to this one here, I should be able to just remove the leader by clicking on the end of it. There we go. So that's the beginning of my drawing with the center line. I'm going to get this out of the way because I'm going to want to put a section line through here. So far so good. Now let me show you a little problem with one of the things that I showed you in my earlier video on how great parametricity was, in which I showed you that if you used this magic button model items, if you had a view selected and you made sure that you selected entire model, and that you had this first button selected under dimensions that's marked for drawing, and you said okay, you get all the dimensions. Fantastic. The only problem is quite a few of these are not usable. And if I hadn't dimensioned this the way I had, some of them wouldn't be usable at all. So for instance, I went in later and I put in a radius here, which I can drag out. And I'm not really even happy with the radius dimension here, because it takes the radius all the way to the bottom with this long line. And I've got to go now adjust that line. I've got to go and take off center and do all sorts of things. So I'm going to delete it, and I'm going to reintroduce it at the top like that. Much shorter, much nicer, much easier. So let's have a look. This 22 here, that's indicating the gap between these two lines. So it's kind of potentially useful, but it doesn't point to anything, and it's going to be difficult to get it to point neatly to those two lines. So I'm going to leave it for now, just to remind us of what that is. These ones here are okay. They just need to be extended a bit, the actual dimension lines. So I'm just dragging these out so that they're closer to the object and they point to the object. 16 is okay, so that one I can leave in place. This 152 is perfect. Diameter 15 is not pointing to anything, not that I can see, so I'm going to get rid of it. Diameter 8.3 is pointing to something, and this 14 is definitely pointing to a position. So I've got the two position dimensions for this, these openings. That kind of has a position dimension, but not really. Yes, it does. In fact, it has the height here. So the height is giving the position for that one. It will be tangent to the height. So far so good. But what I really need is I need an interior view of what this object looks like. So I need a section view going through it so that I can see what's inside, and that's going to be the best place to find the dimensions. So I think most of you will be familiar, I'm hoping by now, on how to use section view. It's under view layout. You go to section view. I'm going to show you the conventional way of doing things, and then I'm going to show you my way, which I think is a bit quicker in this case. Right, so under section view, you get, you can do a vertical, a horizontal, an aligned auxiliary, and then an aligned section view. We're actually going to do an aligned section view, but I'm going to not even bother showing you this view. I'm going to show you what I think is a quicker way. But for now, I'm just going to place this conventional, straightforward vertical section view, and I get the section view coming out on the right. Okay. I in fact want the section view to face the other way so that it looks like this view here. So with the view selected, I go to the design tree and flip direction, and it's flipped it for me. Great stuff. Right, and then the other thing about section views is if you're doing drawings for me, please always make them at least twice the size. So go to this button, the scale button, and scale them up by 2. There may be instances when you don't have to do that, but the section view is the kind of essential dimensioning tool for complex objects. So most of your dimensions will be done inside section views. So scale them up, because then you've got space to put dimensions and you can see what's going on. So here's my section view. At the moment it's linked. As you can see, I can move it left to right. It's linked to the primary view from which it's derived. I want to unlink it, so I'm going to right click on it, say alignment, break alignment. So now I can move this down. The other thing that I see about this view is that it's exactly the same as this left view, but it has a section. And the left view has nothing to tell me that I can't do in the section. So I'm going to delete the left view. I don't need it. Right. And now I want to show you something about section views that's very, very important. You need to make the section line go through the shape that it's going to cut at a perpendicular. All right. So currently this one cuts through these two arcs at a perpendicular, but I'm going to have to exaggerate that arc. So I'm going to go back to this model, although I could do it in there, and I'm going to select this dimension and make it much sharper, 200. So there we go. There's the 200, 199.69. And here you see 22 now lines up a bit better, although not ideal. I'm going to leave it there because it's going to remind us of what the dimension is. So if I go to this view here, and I dimension, I should get exactly 22 here. There we go, 22. So I know this is correct because that is that dimension. Now I'm going to create another line, which I'm going to do as a vertical, and this line, what happened? It disappeared. Okay, so this line is vertical, but it's not perpendicular to either of these two lines. It seems to be stuck there. I'm going to leave it like that. So let me, no, actually, there we go. To be fair, because if I section through that view, it's going to dramatically alter it. But because it's not perpendicular, I want to show you what happens when I decide to make a section view from it. At the moment, this BB is pointing in the opposite direction to AA. I like that. I want that to happen just to show you the difference. So I'm going to bump up the scale, put it in here. For some reason, it's not showing up, so I'm going to rebuild and see if that helps. It seems not to. Okay, I cannot figure out why that is. I think I might have to delete this. Right, if I delete the section view, it's going to delete the section sketch as well, unless I untick that box. And you can see that line is still now a section line, so I need to delete this part as well, and I need to untick again. So I'm not quite sure. Let's see if we can get this to work. I should be able to use that as a section view line. Let's flip direction. Okay, so something very weird is happening here. Let me try and save this drawing, see if that helps. And rebuild it. Start again. Okay, so I'm going to put in a vertical line like this. It does not meet these two lines at a perpendicular. I should now be able to make a section view from it. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to drop that section view in here. And at the moment, the section view faces in the opposite direction to this original AA, which is, for my purposes right now, just to show you what's going on, perfect. So I'm just going to increase the scale to 2.1. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want to line this one up with that one to show you the difference in size. So I'm going to break alignment, and before we do that, we can just measure. Let's see, between there and there. Put a dimension in. And if it was a true dimension, it would say 22. It doesn't. It says 23.4. So you see the problem with not dimensioning perpendicular to the lines is that you're going to get a false reading. You're going to get a dimension which is not true. So if I drag this across, you can see physically how much larger that is. So major points to watch out for in dimensioning: you must make sure that your dimension lines are perpendicular to whatever it is they cut through. So if you've got some sort of angled feature, or in this case radius, you need to make sure the line goes perpendicular to both of them. Now this section is fine, except I really want a section to go through this boss and then take a corner to the left and then go across. So I want the section view to capture all of the internal details in one shot. And the way to do that is to do an aligned section. I'm going to delete this section with the cutting line. And instead of using the section view and then creating a line, I'm going to create the line first. So I'm going to create my cutting line from the outset, and I'm going to just get my mouse to pick up the center of the circle, drag it out so that you've got that lined up, and then make sure that you drag the line well beyond the boss, because remember the boss actually is slightly larger. Let's hit a left to the middle, so let's just pick up on this midpoint and then go up way past. So now I've got a jogged line, a sort of an L shape, or something like that. And I can select this line. Doesn't matter which of the parts of the line you select, just any one of them, and say section view. And then you should get this message saying which of the two views do you want. Do you want a standard section view or a foreshortened legacy section view? Legacy means old-fashioned, and so that's really what I want. It just means that it's going to take only one direction. So it's only going to take the horizontal direction. If I create a standard section view, it's going to take three directions. It's going to go left, up, and then left. So it's going to give me a long section. I only want the short one. There we go. There it is. And I want that larger. And then I also want this to be unaligned, so I can just drag it down a bit. Perfect. So now I've got a section view which covers the boss and the handle and what happens this side of the handle. So I've got everything I need to dimension this object. So I'm just going to move the center line up. Right, so what do I need from this? I need to know what sort of base point this boss starts from. So the way I do that is I put in a virtual sharp. Remember from my previous video, you select a line, hit the shift button, select another line, so that you're going to get the intersection between those two lines. Go across to sketch, hit the point button, and it should do it. Why did it not do it? Okay, so this might be instructive. I was having trouble getting things to work. I zoomed to fit, and then I noticed there's this enormously long line with my drawing at the very, very bottom. So if I just zoom in here, just to show you that my drawing is in fact down here. So what was going on is that somehow that point that I tried to introduce was linked to something which I didn't anticipate. So by zooming out, you can see everything that's in your view. And currently, it's this line. And if I say Control A, let's control everything, select everything. You'll see that it's selected at the bottom. I don't know if you can see this, a little blue point, and at the top, a little red point. So an angry red point means that that's causing the problem. So I can't really zoom out. It won't allow me to zoom out anymore. But what I can do is I can pan. So I'm going to right click and just drag this out. And then I'm going to select this point and delete it. And voila, we're back in business. So we're going to have to redo this thing. I will reintroduce it and then snip it back into the video. Okay, so we're back in business. Just to show you, to put in the virtual sharp, I hold the shift button down, or I can just click on the line first. Okay, so there's a little mistake that I might have made. Be careful not to select the view and a line, and just to select a line, otherwise you might get an error. So I've selected a line, holding the shift button down, selected another line, and then put in the point. That's one. Right, line, shift, select another line, select the point. So now I've got where these two faces would meet, the intersection, and I can dimension that. So again, select that point and this point, and I get this dimension which says 19, which is geometrically correct. It is 19, but it doesn't tell me what shape that is. So if I just hit the control button, if this doesn't show, I'll get this little button where I can put something on the left or the right or the top. All sorts of things you can do with this. I think I did mention this before. So I'm going to put something on the left-hand side, and I want that diameter symbol. As far as I know, it's not available in here. It might be on yours. But I just scroll down on the left-hand side, and there's that symbol that I want, diameter. It pops it in. Perfect. So that's that done. There's nothing else that I really need to do here. Oh, what I could do is I could dimension. In fact, I must dimension these. So this here needs a message like a long edge, which should be in caps. A long edge. Okay, and all that means is that whatever I've dimensioned there goes all the way around. So if you remember, or let's just do this now, I'm going to reintroduce my tangent edges. I'm going to put with font. So if I say radius 1.3 a long edge, that means all the way around on the inside of the handle is a radius of 1.3. This, I think, should be exactly the same. No, that's a different radius. So that will get the same message then. A long edge. I only need to put that in once because that covers everything. And remember, redundancy is a very important thing. We want to avoid it. And one or two other dimensions. So I need the height of this thing. So let's go from there to there. And I also need to indicate the taper, which I can do using a note. Shortcut. Can't drag this up. Sorry. Okay, so I'm going to put a note in here. Draft 3, and now I need a degree symbol, so I go to the left hand side, this third button, there's my degree symbol, and I should specify that it's all around, but I'm not going to do that right now. I've just noticed this dimension 3 is not pointing to anything, so I'm going to delete that. And that would be the sum of what you need to do to dimension this object. You've got the height, got everything else in here. I think there is maybe a slight, no, there isn't. Thought that didn't connect. And that pretty much sums it up, other than you now specifying what material it is and so forth. So hopefully that's been informative. We'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.